Good morning. I'm very glad to be here. I'm glad that all of you are here, and I know this is very important for all of us. So my name is Regina Posva. I've been a nurse for over 20 years and working with mental health for the first 6 years and primarily Alzheimer's and dementia the rest. And I started off in the U.S. in the last 5 years. Oh, that can go louder. The last 5 years, primarily in St. Lucia and other, I've been in a couple other islands and worked with dementia. So what I'm going to do is explain, give my story about what I found and what I have worked with in the communities as a nurse and a caregiver and family helper. So first of all, what I find mostly is there's little to no assessments from the health sector. They have little knowledge about the condition and how it affects the whole family. There's a general lack of respect for the elderly and with disabilities, particularly with dementia, symptoms of dementia. There's lack of available education opportunities to even gain knowledge on how to communicate and care for those with dementia. There's no support for the caregiver's personal needs and health in relation to caring for someone with dementia, which most of us know about. So, and as a family, families find financial resources are depleted or they never had any to start with, which causes lack of tools and supplies to even care for people that need assistance. There's a lack of teamwork between families, carers, institutions, and communities. The teamwork with all of these will reduce care of cost, period, and stress levels, period. So stress rate for caregivers in all aspects of life are elevated with little to no hope of a better way. Families wanting quality care and some refusing or unable to pay fair wages. Now let's break that down a little bit. We'll talk about family caregivers. Particularly, they have little to no support from other family members a lot of times, communities, and of course, no government assistance. Care partners continue to lose hours of work while trying to cope with care issues at home. The stress involved with this is not recognized or considered because the expectation is that this is your life and you have to deal with it. Care partners that do 24/7 care are stretched with no support and contemplate suicide 8 times more than the general public. This was done by Australia and US caregivers a few years ago. And the attitude towards these conditions is a lack of understanding of the impact of caring and watching someone you love deteriorate to the very core of who they are and the relationship between the care partner and the person living with dementia. There's no financial support, and therefore it can be difficult to pay for help. And without support, unconditional abuse is a high risk for this group. Then we talk about professional caregivers. Good medical background, but they still lack the skills to communicate effectively with those with dementia, often understaffed in hospitals or community-based homes. Basic knowledge on dementia, but no real understanding or skill to communicate with them or the families that care for them. Then you have private caregivers. Now this is one that's really really touched me a lot. Usually what I found is a lot of these private caregivers come from long-term housekeepers or gardeners and are expected to maintain their normal duties on top of full-time caregiving. The stress with these caregivers often become ill and unable to keep up with their demands. The risk to be abused by the employers with these high expectations put these caregivers at a high risk to abuse the ones that need help. So, of course, what are some suggestions? Of course, educating the health sector to identify some symptoms, encourage them to refer patients for further evaluations, identify ways to assist families, help their loved ones remain independent longer, and teach families and other caregivers in the community to communicate effectively with those living with dementia. Dementia caregiver training should always include working with individuals with dementia and communities for an X amount of time when you're talking about training professionals. Of course, the family caregivers are already working with someone. So train volunteers for respite relief for some of these families for up to 2-hour blocks at a time. Let's see. And then, of course, the daycare centers, and I mean not babysitting ports. I found a lot of the day centers don't have dementia experience, and so they have just basic card playing and things like that, which just aren't enough to stimulate everybody that, that has dementia. So, and then of course, how are we supposed to pay for all of this? So these are challenges that we all have, all the communities. So there's, of course, there's regular fundraising, charges on a scale, government assistance, and so I'm also open for other ideas because this is one of the biggest challenges as well. When I do a lot of training myself, one of my favorite quotes, because I'm going to end with this, and it's, we need to change our minds about people whose minds have changed. So there you go. Thanks.
Repeat what you said last.
Oh, I said, we need to change the minds about people whose minds have changed.